With me today is Councillor Rachel Smith, Chair of the Far North District Council's Strategy and Planning Committee. Good afternoon, Councillor.
Hey Pete, how's it going?
Very well. How are you keeping in your bubble?
Good, thank you. Pretty intense, pretty full on, but challenging, which is good.
Good stuff. I don't know if you've had a chance to have a look at any of the other videos in this series, but a number of business leaders have spoken at some length about a need for a reduction in local government bureaucracy as being necessary to restart the engine of our economy. Can I ask, do you agree? And if not, why not? And if you do agree, where do you see the potential for streamlining?
So it's a really good question, Pete. For me, something that I constantly reference for myself, one of the first terms I penned, I guess you could say, when I was elected to local government was I laid down a challenge to our organisation and invited them to consider what agile bureaucracy might look like. We live in a time where technology changes faster than we can consider. In the time that my son can learn to run a game, we potentially have not even mown a park, to put it in perspective, and I guess that's an extreme perspective. So I 100% agree with that there do need to be some barriers removed. There does need to be some consideration put to how, as a sector, local government really put their money where their mouth is and become enablers. Look at what it is that our industries are needing, what outcomes we want to be achieving, and be willing to adapt in the journey to those outcomes. I think it's really important to remember, though, that unfortunately there are times where we are bound by legislation. For example, I know that a good one that comes up is with the RMA, or the Resource Management Act, and the red tape around the consenting process. That is very much dictated to us through legislation by central government, but I think it's a really good opportunity for us to reiterate the importance of understanding what those challenges look like, so that through our advocacy channels, talking to central government, putting our submissions into those legislative changes, we're able to really articulate that and invite central government to consider that in the way that they change. We are in an exciting place at the moment because the RMA, for example, is under review, and our current government seem to be appreciative of the need to also be agile in their bureaucracy and their legislation too. So I think that it's a really good challenge, and it's something that I'd really like for our business industries especially to be pushing on local government and saying, hey, look, these are the things that we need support with. These are the things that we're willing to work with you on in order to achieve the best outcomes for our district.
Has anybody spoken to you from our local business side to say that this is what they need from council to help drive us out of this ditch that COVID has put us into?
There have definitely been ongoing conversations, especially with the business sector, iwi leaders, for example. We don't seem to yet quite be in that space where we feel comfortable with what it is that we need to be changing in order to come out of this, because the reality is we are still in level 4. We are still very much in lockdown, and the difference between level 4 for 4 weeks compared to level 4 for 6 weeks, for example, completely changes the way that we may need to approach that. So again, it's really just reiterating the importance of having that conversation, of understanding what it is that we need to be considering along the way, and as we go, putting building blocks in place. So for example, at our last council meeting last Thursday, we made a decision around a policy to help people who are facing hardship with their business, with their personal income, in terms of meeting their rates burden. Rates are a tax. They are not an option that we can choose whether or not to pay. They are something that we simply have to figure out the means to meet that burden. So for us as a council to put our first policy building block in place to allow for the debt management team to work with businesses on a case-by-case basis and consider deferring rates, giving rate repayment holidays and things like that, in order for those businesses to be able to focus on rebuilding and coming out the other side in a position where they can potentially thrive from the opportunities that I think we're going to see from this challenge.
So I presume there is opportunity still, in your view, for local businesses, local business leaders, the cohort that these videos are aimed at, to get together, come up with a package of some description of activity, streamlinings, efficiencies that they would like to see from council, and present those to you. I hear you telling me that nobody has actually done that yet, despite the fact that a lot of people might be saying they need council to do this or to do that.
We have certainly had some suggestions and approaches from business leaders, and those are always going to look different compared in relation to the challenges that they seem to be facing on that day to day. The reality is our door is wide open as an elected council, and I'd like to say as an organisation as well, in terms of maintaining that conversation, building that conversation. The reality is, through the democratic process, we were put here as decision makers, but we were put here to represent those voices. So if we're not hearing those voices, we can't represent them. However, I definitely see our role in local government as being enablers. We are here to provide the toolbox to assist with the business sector and what they need to really understand how to rebuild their new normal, I guess you could say. We want to be able to give policies and processes that support the outcomes that they're looking for, whatever that might be as we come out the other side. However, we are not an organisation that's in a situation where we can do that work for people.
What do you think that the Northland business and commercial landscape in general, and the far north landscape in particular, will look like once recovery has been achieved? Will it be essentially the same as it was before? And if not, what are the areas in which you think we'll see change?
I think it's fair to say that I'm an optimist. And if I'm entirely honest, I'm quite excited about the opportunities that we are going to see from the change that we've had to face through this pandemic situation. I think that if businesses are willing to look at the way that they can adapt, the way that they can consider, and I think more than ever collaborate. I think it's a really important opportunity for businesses to consider what their strengths are and how those strengths could potentially benefit other businesses, and in turn they can lean on the strength of other businesses to then build that together. For example, running campaigns about shopping locally and encouraging people to pump money back into their backyard as opposed to jumping online and purchasing something from Australia. I think that there is a really incredible opportunity for our district in terms of digital and the way that we go forward. There is a piece of work that is being undertaken by central government at the moment, which is upgrading all of our digital infrastructure. My understanding is that that will be completed in 2023. So I guess the question is, what opportunities could we be presented by having robust digital infrastructure in place that we could potentially fast track in order to really help businesses connect with each other, connect with their customer, and connect with potential customers outside of the district as well, in order to attract that economic benefit back into the district. So I think that collaboration and communication are going to be really, really key to businesses and the way that they respond to the opportunities that I think will come from this situation.
Councillor, what will be your committee's priorities as we enter the post-COVID normal, and how will these have changed since 2 months ago, if at all?
Pete, I think this situation really highlights our need to ensure that our strategies and our legislative pieces of work are fit for purpose. So, for example, ensuring that our district plan is geared to be delivered on time, and also geared to be an enablement tool to make sure that it's really fit for purpose to deliver those outcomes that businesses are looking for, to look at the boundaries that were already in place, but understand how important they are now to ensure their economic recovery. Another piece of work that I see is really important is our social procurement policy. So as an organisation, we're looking at the way that we will be procuring our work within the district and ensuring that we are geared to provide as many jobs as possible through leadership and through ensuring that our level of service is no longer, while it remains constant, it is also empowered to really support the people that it is constant for. The other point that I really want to reiterate is the desire for data-driven decision-making. So really pushing hard, not only for data from the past, but also for forecasting, projections, understanding that having the right people in our court from an economic point of view is key to us being able to make decisions that will really enable that economy to thrive post-COVID-19 pandemic.
And on that very optimistic note, Councillor Smith, thank you very much indeed for your time today. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Pete. It was a really good afternoon. Have a good one. Take care. Stay home. Stay safe.
Will do. Thank you.